The Taj Mahal is the global benchmark for bilateral symmetry. It is defined by a layout where every courtyard, archway, and garden plot is mirrored across a central axis. However, precise modern architectural surveys and advanced 3D laser measurements show that this perceived symmetry actually contains a deliberate hidden deviation. This anomaly is found in the 4 minarets framing the corners of the main marble platform. These towers do not stand exactly perpendicular to the ground. Each one features a calculated 1-degree outward lean. Structural analysis confirms this tilt was a specific engineering choice made during the initial construction phase. The Taj Mahal operates as an engineered system designed to counteract physical forces and manipulate perception. The architects were tasked with executing a literal cosmological blueprint of Jannah, the Islamic paradise, using 17th-century masonry. This required them to resolve the tension between the required aesthetic perfection and the physical constraints of heavy stone and human optical distortion. We can see this resolution through 3 distinct systems: seismic load failsafes, optical typography, and macro symmetry. The Mughal builders functioned as applied mathematicians, using specific structural interventions to solve physical problems. To understand the building, we have to reverse engineer these calculations to see how the mathematics dictated the final form. Building in northern India meant accounting for the seismic activity of the region. The architects were working with rigid masonry, which lacks the flexibility to absorb significant earth tremors. The central 73-meter dome represents the vault of heaven. Because it sits directly over the burial chamber, it is the most structurally and theologically sensitive part of the complex. During an earthquake, lateral forces cause tall, slender structures to fracture at their base. For the Taj Mahal, the primary risk was the potential collapse of the framing minarets. In this model, let's look at scenario A. If the minarets were built at a true 90-degree angle, their center of gravity would sit directly over the center of their foundation. If a lateral shift causes the tower to fracture, the mass is likely to fall inward, crushing the central dome and destroying the heart of the complex. Now consider the actual construction, scenario B. By leaning the towers 1 degree away from the mausoleum, the architects shifted the center of gravity toward the outside of the platform. In the event of structural failure, the tower is forced to pivot outward. The stone falls into the surrounding courtyard, leaving the dome and the tombs beneath it intact. These minarets are sacrificial structures, precisely angled to ensure that the central dome survives a catastrophic event. While the minarets manage physical mass, the calligraphy on the building's surface manages human perception. This black marble lettering frames the archways of the mausoleum. Because these arches are massive, the text must remain legible from a distance of dozens of meters. The calligrapher, Amanat Khan Shirazi, had to solve a problem of optics: how to prevent the text from appearing to shrink as it moves higher up the arch. When you look up at a tall archway, your perspective changes. The visual angle narrows as the text moves further from your eye, making letters at the top appear smaller than those at the bottom. To counteract this, Amanat Khan used graduated text scaling. The lettering is physically larger at the top of the arch than at the base. The size increases incrementally as the script ascends the vertical surface. This scaling equalizes the perception of the text for a viewer on the ground. By distorting the physical size of the letters, the calligrapher created the illusion of perfect uniformity. The perceived perfection of the calligraphy is the result of mathematical distortion. This reliance on mathematical precision continues across the entire 17-hectare site. Every building and garden plot is positioned relative to a central axis. In Mughal theory, this symmetry was a non-negotiable requirement of the site plan. This required a solution for the mosque. Because it is a place for communal prayer, it has a specific functional requirement that cannot be moved. A mosque must face Mecca. In Agra, that means the prayer hall is locked into a western orientation within the complex. Placing a large sandstone building only on the western side would leave the site's geometric grid unbalanced. To maintain the symmetry, the architects built an identical footprint on the eastern side. This building, the Mimam Khana, serves no primary religious function. It exists to balance the grid. The mathematical grid was so rigid that when a functional necessity created an imbalance, a secondary building was constructed solely to restore the site's geometric equilibrium. From the angle of the minarets to the scaling of the calligraphy, every element of the Taj Mahal is an engineered response to a physical or optical constraint. These calculations were not for aesthetics alone. The architects were using human skill to align the physical world with a divine blueprint of paradise. The visual beauty we see today is the result of this rigorous application of physics and geometry. By correcting for the tilt of a tower or the distortion of perspective, the builders removed the imperfections of the natural world. For the Mughal architects, the precise calculation of mass and light was an act of worship. They used engineering to bridge the gap between the earthly and the divine, building a vision of heaven that could withstand the laws of physics.